Good evening, Professor. Good evening, classmates. The city that I chose for the budget analysis is Huntington Beach, California, the city of Huntington Beach, California. As you guys can see over here towards the right side, there's the logo of when it was incorporated as a city. The overview of this budget analysis is going to include a little bit of the overview of the city, what facts I've found about the budget, the major expenditures, what major industries call Huntington Beach their home, what revenue resources are the main revenue resources for the budget and the city, what goals that I was able to find in the budget, and ultimately a brief conclusion on the budget. Here we have the Huntington Beach City Council. Here are some of the members. From left to right, you find Council Member Natalie Moser, Major Pro Tem Barbara Douglas. I found that Pro Tem means that it is a transitional major. I don't know if it's because Major Kim Carr is actually stepping down, but it is actually elected out of a city council member. It cannot be a person from the outside. You see Council Member Mike Posey, Dale Kalmick, Major Kim Carr, Council Member Rhonda Bolton, Eric Peterson, and it's actually a 10-member city council. You have this the 7 city council members, and you have a treasurer, you have a financial advisor, and obviously the city manager, because it's a city council, city manager type of government, and they're elected to a 4-year term. They can be re-elected. Some information that is not there. They can be re-elected for consecutive terms, and pretty much the city is the legislative authority. Okay. A brief overview of the city of Huntington. The city was founded in the 1800s. It is located 35 miles southeast of Los Angeles. It's known for its 9.5-mile beach stretch and a mild climate. It was incorporated in 1909. In the early years, it was primarily an agricultural city, but it was found that it had large oil reserves, and that took the city into an industrialized phase. The location of the city is a total area of 31.9 square miles, 26.7, which is actual land, and 5.1 square miles, which is actually water. It is the 24th largest city in California. The population estimate as of 2020, it's 198,711 people. The median household income is $102,423. The median value of the homeowner occupied housing unit is $771,100. The employment rate is 63.5, which is slightly above the average of California. The poverty rate is 8.3. There is approximately 61.5. The demographics, obviously, of the city is male Caucasian, 1.4 is Black, and 12.2 is Asian. 22.2 of that is Hispanics, 20.2. It is actually a mainly Republican city. The majority of the registered voters are Republican, and that is roughly 40%, while 31% of the registered voters are actually Democrats. The budget type, I believe, is a program budget. The general fund makes about 50% of the budget figure. Other funds include water, capital projects, internal service transportation. The largest source of revenue for the general fund is property tax, then it's sales tax. The main economy of the city is actually based on 2 sites, manufacturing technology. Boeing manufacturer is actually located in Huntington Beach, as well as aerospace industry. And the the home base of Quicksilver, the manufacturing is there. I believe it's just the headquarters. I don't know if it's their manufacturing. I believe the manufacturing is actually in Philadelphia. Oh, sorry. It actually has natural resources, natural reserve, oils reserves. It actually has no financial value in the economy, but it does have some oil reserves. So it's good to know. Quick facts about the budget. The adopted general budget is $216.9 million. That is actually a decrease of 20 million. The 2000 and 2021 adopted budget was balanced through a combination of strategies, continuing the hiring freeze, reducing personnel costs, reduction in operating expenditures, minimizing purchases of capital to focus on only the most essential and necessary project equipment, and reducing transfers from the general fund. This was actually taken from their budget, and it actually has to do a lot with the pandemic. As you know, some of the economy of the city is actually tourism and manufacturing. Those were two of the most heavily affected sides of the economy. The adopted budget equals $359 million in all funds. This reflects a 20 million or 5.8% decrease from the previous year budget, which it was $381 million. Some of the major expenditures are the budgets for the police, fire, and public. And that equals actually $172.7 million, or 79.9% of the total adopted general fund budget. Each of the remaining 10 departments comprise less than 4.5% of the general fund budget. Funding for public safety represents 60 cents of every dollar spent in the general fund. So that means that 60 cents of every dollar goes to public services, whether it's fire, police, or public works. Major industries, like I explained, are manufacturing, technology, and second is actually tourism, where the annual visitor population is 16 million. The revenue sources of the general fund are projected to be $216.9 million, which is a 6.4% decrease from the previous year due to the COVID pandemic. The largest revenue decline is in the transient occupancy tax, which is anticipated to decrease $7.4 million, or 51.8%, due to closure in hotels, closure in retail sales, and the influx of the tourism. The self-start revenue, which is the second largest category revenue in the city, was budgeted at $39.2 million, which is a decrease of 4.8%. Property tax, which is estimated at $94.4 million, and actually had an increase, but that is due to the year-over-year growth in assessed valuations of the properties. The revenues allocated for infrastructure, the budget commits approximately $27.3 million in general fund spending for the maintenance and improvement of the city's infrastructure. That means that $3.4 million goes into the facilities, $350,000 goes to parks and beaches. Of this amount, $1.97 million is dedicated to facility enhancements, $300,000 for residential alley rehabilitation, $420,000 goes to street and road improvement, and $205,000 goes to pump station roof replacement. Out of the revenue resources, the sales tax revenue, which is the second highest, like I mentioned, most decreases of these two revenues is attributed to the impact of COVID, The revenue sources mainly is, like I mentioned, property tax, sales tax, and utility users tax. Some of the goals that identified in this budget, it's actually due to the economic downturn affecting all the areas in the economy of this city in particular. It actually represents the second year in which some of the budget reductions were necessary in order for the balance of the budget and the minimization of the future impacts on the budget. In an effort to balance the budget, the departments were required to continue reductions for the previous year. And some of these reductions, as mentioned before, include hiring freeze, reductions, overtime, and reductions in operating budgets. For conclusion, I thought it was a well-presented budget. There was some misleading information about the diversity of the economy. Personally, the more that I Google it, the more that I noticed that it wasn't necessarily just only what they were saying, but there was actually some things a little bit more palpable. And actually, as you see in the screen, it's actually most of the source of the revenue didn't necessarily come from what they said. Obviously, a lot was from sales tax. And as you can tell by demographics, they actually have a high occupancy, owner occupancy housing. So that's why a lot of those revenue come from. I was actually a little bit impressed also by the clarity and the honesty of the budget. So this concludes my review of the budget for the city of Huntington Beach, California. Thank you.